Hi everyone, welcome back to the GuideWell Insights Lounge. This is Kate Warnock live on location at the Oliver Wyman Health Innovation Summit. And I'm delighted to bring a new guest to the lounge. We've had some of our friends return. This is the first time I think we've had Craig Thomas join us, so happy to have you here.
It's great to be here, Kate. Good to see you.
So Craig, you are the Chief Marketing Officer for GuideWell, and you're also the President of GuideWell Connect.
That's right.
Yeah, all right. Let's get to your questions. So Craig, you know, it's really easy to get distracted by the bright, shiny things, you know, the big tech things like AI, connected and digital health, augmented reality, everything that we're hearing about as buzzwords. But health insurance and healthcare is still too confusing for most consumers to understand today. Yeah. What's your approach to simplifying the current state of health insurance and getting the basics right?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's lots of buzzwords in the industry right now, and engagement's one of them. Mm-hmm. You know, the way I would look at it is all the new technology that's emerging, digital and analytics and so forth, is super important, and it adds to the toolkit.
Okay.
And it helps you communicate one-to-one to understand consumers better, but it's not the full answer. If you think about what drives impacts for members or patients or health plans or providers for that matter, it's really people who are sicker, who are using the system.
Okay.
And the system is really two big pieces: the health insurance system, which is confusing for a lot of people, not that friendly, not that easy to understand or navigate; the healthcare delivery system, which is not that friendly, easy to navigate. So I think part of it is you have to have the digital, but you have to use the full toolkit. Believe it or not, direct mail still works.
How about it? Yeah.
Call centers work.
Right.
Because people need that high touch sometimes. Retail centers, you know, we operate retail centers in Florida, and we've helped other plans around the country open them. We had over 300,000 people come into retail centers because they need that personal touch, whether it's how to use their health plan or how to use the healthcare system, because it's too confusing.
Right.
And so if you want to have an impact on the people who have a lot going on, who are maybe upset, confused, you have to be able to build that relationship with them through the whole toolkit.
So it sounds to me like you're really timing the way you engage with people. It's how they want to be spoken to. So whether it's through direct mail, whether it's through a face-to-face encounter, you've figured out how to be the right place at the right time with the right message.
Well, you have to. You know, so if a health plan or a provider is saying, look, the rise of consumerism is a strategic trend, I have to understand that and relate to it and take advantage of it, so to speak. You have to understand each person's different.
Right. How
they want to be communicated, what language, what channel, when, if at all, and which is why I think it's so important to the extent that the health plan and the provider can at least coordinate, if not integrate, because some consumers would prefer to hear a message from the provider, and some maybe from the health plan, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So all that coordination is all about understanding not just broad segments, but segments and then the individual person within the segment.
Right, right. Well, I think great lead into this next question. You know, we were talking a little bit before we went on air, and you said that consumerism has a direct impact on health plans and providers taking risk, and that making it work is in everyone's best interest. Expand on that for us. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you think back in time, history, depending on what part of the country, you know, the employer picked the plan for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, I used to ask people, how many of you have ever picked your own health insurance plan? And you can't count your mom picking it, you know, for you, or your employer picking it for you. And back then, which wasn't too long ago, I'd say maybe 10% of the people had ever selected their own plan. So selection of the right plan, retention, you know, those are obviously big issues for a health plan. Mm-hmm. Getting care gaps closed, getting accurate risk adjustment, getting providers or members to go in the network, consider generics, don't use the ER if it's not. All of those things clearly impact the health plan for sure. Now that members are paying thousands of dollars out of their own pocket, either in premiums and or co-insurance and deductibles, and the health outcomes, clearly important to the member and their family.
Sure.
And then providers, as they take on risk for improvements in cost and outcomes and quality, their ability to engage with their patients, particularly in between visits on lifestyle issues and other things that are affecting the outcomes, super important.
Sure.
So
sure.
the beauty is understanding consumer needs, helping support members, educating, and all those types of things works for everybody.
All right, well, let's take the science of what you do at GuideWell Connect and really apply it to, we're seeing this really diverse consumer population, really starting to demand that personalized attention. So we have very choppy shopping habits of the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials. They buy things a different way. Their habits are different. How does GuideWell Connect advise health plans to be relevant to all of these different populations?
Well, and that's a great question too, and it's a big topic here at the conference.
Sure.
We just had a session on aging and seniors, and how they're not what you think about.
That's right. We just had Joanne Jenkins. That's right.
From years ago, it's different, and really that's the root of I think what we're talking about here is use a old saying, different strokes for different folks.
Right.
It's not just generational. It could be country of origin. It can
Sure.
be race. It can be sex. It can be your health status. People change as they go through
Right.
time. So you can't cookie cutter it. You have to have programs that start with what does that person need. So I think it comes down to, and this is the kind of the meats and potatoes or blocking and tackling of consumerism. It's do you have the data?
Yeah.
Both operational data and purchase data.
Yeah.
Are you able to segment and target? Do you have a variety of communications channels? Do you have listening tools? We learned, talked a little bit about test and learn. The best way to know what works is to try it.
Right.
And, so all of those become integrated business processes. And executing consumerism in a way that has an impact is just like everything else. You have to have the ability to integrate through your business processes.
I want to get your opinion, Craig. Helen Lees this morning in her keynote was saying, she was advising this wonderful audience here at the summit, that you don't want to outsource your data analytics. So you want to own that capability, learn how to leverage that data. It seems to me like that's really in the DNA of what GuideWell Connect does.
I think that's, that's probably good advice if you think about it this way. There's a lot of great companies that have very advanced tools and models. I'm not sure you have to reinvent all that every time.
Okay.
That's a long, expensive proposition. But now you have insight. Now what? And I think this is where the opportunity is for plans and providers is to say, I'm going to take that insight and I'm actually going to do something with it.
Right.
On a scalable, repeatable, learning way.
Right.
So that I'm getting benefit and the members are getting a benefit.
So their Connect can come in, and instead of the plan having to invent all that themselves, you're bringing in your proven methodologies for really how to do everything, to make those insights actionable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the topics this morning as well is, plans can't be great at everything.
Yes.
And unless you have a certain amount of scale, large enough consumer markets, so a lot of the things that we do at GuideWell Connect for health plans, it's because of that. We've invested for a decade plus in data and analytics and talent and business processes and capabilities, in call centers and other kinds of things like that work great for our original client, Florida Blue, because the market's so large and Florida Blue's so advanced and large. You go to some of these other markets and some of these other plans, and they don't have that size or the long history in the consumer markets that we do. So.
Right. All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights with us, and enjoy the rest of the summit while you're here.
Okay,
all right.
great.
This is
Thank
Kate
you,
Warnock coming to you from the GuideWell Insights Lounge. We're going to be up with another interview. Please keep watching.